All right, welcome to Frisella's All Around the Yard. I am your host, Tony Frisella Jr. With us today, we have our senior designer, Justin Verbryck. Justin, hello.
How y'all doing? Hopefully everyone's staying cool out there. It's very hot here in Missouri.
Only the temperature of the sun.
Yeah.
And so today, with it being end of August, September's next week, as of this recording, we're starting to tap on the time of season where we're starting to plan the spring season for landscape designs, landscape installations. This really isn't the time where anybody's really thinking about this yet because kids are going back to school. The fall season's getting started for many sports. And, many people are still thinking about finishing up fall landscapes, fall yard projects, those kind of things as the temperatures hopefully start to subside soon. But nevertheless, landscape design, professional landscape design is a process. It's not an arduous process. It's just a process that needs to be followed to have or to be able to deliver a landscape design that's going to also deliver an experience day in and day out for the end user, which is all of our clients. So we want to start thinking about that now. We're thinking about how these landscapes are going to be built in the springtime. That's going to be spring of 2022. Wow. So Justin, somebody calls in right now and they say, hey, we want to start designing a landscape, but we know it's going to be spring. What are you going to tell them?
It's always funny when people call in and ask if it's too early to start planning. For me, it's, as you know, it's never too early for someone to call ahead and get on the books, get us out there, look at the site, figure out, what goals they have for the property or their home. The longer we have, and the reality, it's, as you mentioned, it's the process of meeting with the homeowner, doing our site analysis, takeoffs, going back, putting together a thoughtful design that is, functionally solving the issues that the client may have, and then also providing, value or aesthetic to the property or a certain aspect of what they're wanting to achieve around the home. So that whole span takes time, and people don't realize. And we do rush, through, getting things moved to hit timelines, but the ideal is, it can take us anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks to do that design. And so once we get our design put together and meet with the homeowner, you have then that span for the homeowner to evaluate and think through what we presented to them. Everyone has busy lives here, so I know myself, when you get something sent to you, it's a week goes by, you don't realize you didn't look at it. You sit down, and 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then before you know it, someone's calling us back and saying, hey, we wanted to move forward, but then now we're already 4 more weeks out from what we told someone. So it's good to get the ball rolling ahead of when you think you may need to.
There's never a such thing as too much planning, especially if you're dealing with a complicated site. And so a complicated site might be multiple elevation changes, a lot of, I'm not going to say obstructions, but items might be in the yard, whether it's littered with 12-inch trees, 24-inch trees throughout the yard. If there's drainage solutions that need to be addressed inside of it, we want to make sure that we're thinking through it and not overlooking some of these issues, because that it could be to the detriment of whatever beautiful things that are created in the yard. And so when you do when you're in a consultation, what kind of things do you want the client to have prepared?
It's helpful for them to establish kind of like the goals that they're wanting to achieve for the property. Outside of that, having images of styles or particular elements that they may want to incorporate in the landscape or on their home are helpful. For having the conversation, be able to walk the property, you can get a good understanding about what someone's trying to achieve, but it's always hard to get inside of someone else's head. So having collage, whether it's like Houzz or Pinterest or just Google, and getting kind of snapshots of a folder put together helps me. You can usually pick up trends of, all right, in all these pictures there's this repeating pattern, or if they like this type of paving, or they like this planting pattern that's reoccurring in all these images that they're putting together. And so and I think the homeowner gains a better understanding of themselves from doing that education and research of seeing what they like, what they don't like, and helps speed up the process overall of, I think we do a pretty good job of off the bat delivering something that appeases, I think, the homeowner.
And with planning, especially when it comes to the materials, anything that's man-made, well, I mean, for right now in today's environment, it's anything, it's everything. Every aspect of what we do to develop or create a landscape, whether it's our own equipment that we need to do it, or it's the plant material, or it's the hardscapes, trying to get it right now, it can be like either months or in some cases into the following year. It's starting to seem like, or they're discontinuing product left and right because there's not the material out there. So planning, this is another reason why planning is so important as far out as we can, because we want to make sure that whatever we specify, whatever we're excited about, we can keep the details of that plan intact and not have to get up right up to the project and realize, oh my gosh, all of a sudden they discontinued it and for whatever reason couldn't get it, and then we have to switch gears and change things out, which has happened a couple of times this year. So with a site analysis, so I mean, you and I know what that is, obviously, but run through with a homeowner what a site analysis might entail.
I mean, so it's looking at not only your site, but also the corresponding sites around you of how, whether it's you're on the bottom of a slope and you have properties coming up through you and how that drainage affects your property, or how your property and what we may be doing there affects the corresponding neighboring properties. So it's...
you mean you don't want to just dump water on your neighbor?
Exactly. Yeah, more common than unfortunately we would like to. But it means it's taking a holistic view of that property itself, and also the surrounding area of what's happening, what current issues you have, what you could foresee potentially happening, whether if someone's going to be building on a property next to them, what you may foresee in the future happening with any construction that may adversely affect that property from what they're doing, whether it's building up and then that water, like we talked about, drainage of getting dumped down onto them, and figuring out, okay, what do we need to do here? Do we need to build a berm to help push that water to the creek side or common area, whatever it may be. But another good thing, getting in early. I had a client call a few weeks back. It's doing a custom home. Hasn't broke ground yet, but wants to have the landscape have a major role in the home and the entryway. And I think we've talked about this before. The entry point of a lot of builders are just going to put in a sidewalk that's going to shoot straight over to the front door and
not have any kind of excitement to it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of opportunity with how you can create the entrance to the front of your home, both with the pathway that you're using and the planting, the bed space that we can play with planting that up front, and also same thing, drainage, thinking of all the things that kind of get overthought or unfortunately just get kind of swept to the side when understandably the builder's trying to move through and get things delivered and built for the home.
It's the end of the project. They're ready to get in. Let's get this thing wrapped up.
If you can get in there before you do hardscaping, run out your drainage, get everything graded correctly, that helps you versus having to come in after the fact and correct what wasn't done.
It's like behind, you can't change what's behind the walls without a major expense. It's easier to do it up front and then put the drywall on and go from there. Same thing with landscape. Get the soil, get the drainage, get all that stuff corrected. And then, if you got to come back later to finish off the landscape and do it in phases, that's so much better. You get so much better result of it. You see less dieback. You see the lifespan of the landscape lasts longer. I mean, all kinds of things with it. I mean, utilities is a big thing also. I mean, there seems to be more and more fiber in the ground nowadays
than you don't want to run into
than ever before. But I mean, making sure that utilities are marked. I know there's a site that just came in, dropped in our lap, that they want us to come out and look at it at a lake. This is actually a pretty good example. I mean, what's the high water level? What's the low water level? I mean, where are the utilities? I mean, what's staying? What's going as far as driveways, patios, decks, those kind of things? What's existing? Is there an irrigation system? Is there not? Lighting, sound? I mean, there's so many things that, most people's like, oh, I guess you do need to do that, don't you? Because what's going to happen when we put that, bucket in the ground, it's all done. It's all gone. So you want to make sure it's all thought through, because that also creates, I've seen it where it creates additional costs that people weren't expecting. So we want to have a time to be very thorough through everything that we look before we start to put any kind of design, any ideas, any kind of vision to a site. I mean, So what kind of items does a plan include? I mean, if you just describe it, right now on video or through the microphone, how would you describe what they're going to get?
So for most of our clients, we generally create what we call a master plan, and so it's going to be a 2D plan view. So imagine bird's eye looking down your property, outlining the house, driveway, hardscape, property edges, and then from there we're lining out if we have drainage, hardscape elements, retaining walls, planting beds, all that then is detailed out specifically for your front landscape bed. We're going to call out the specific trees that we have, the shrubs, perennials. For the hardscape elements, we've got call outs of the paving pattern, the type of paving, the banding that we have. So we try to get as detailed with it as we can, and also putting images for plant material, hardscape items, anything that's associated with the project, so that way when we bring that presentation board to the client, they've got a very accurate representation of what we're going to be building, both from a material standpoint, from layout standpoint, and trying to break those down the best we can, so that's very easy for them to perceive.
So on the professional design side, now let's kind of go over to a homeowner side. And this is a little bit out of your realm. You're not in the garden center all the time. But I mean, we've done where we've had design days where people would come in with pictures of the home. We would pull up their address on our tablet where we can see the satellite view, north, south, east, west cardinal directions, and kind of get a feel for how things are. And the photos gave some kind of perspective to slopes and those kind of things. But if a homeowner wants to kind of put a design together themselves, and say, same thing. They want to know. We want to know where the utilities are. We want to know the slope. We want to know those kind of things. But one question is they want to know what's going to work well in their yard. Obviously, they're going to leave it to professionals to guide them in the right direction. But I mean, how many times do you get? I've been asked for crepe myrtle trees, which we know isn't the best thing to be putting in St. Louis. I mean, how many different things do you see people get asked for that you have to think and maybe adjust? You might find a similar texture or color to complement what they're looking for.
Yeah. I actually just met with a client yesterday that we've had a previous meeting with before, and going back of just trying to fine tune the layout for a rear patio, and she was showing me some pictures of plant material that she took from Garden Center of what she likes. And so again, I was going through the pictures and seeing that she likes the textural and the foliage, the high contrast of having like a light green, the bright yellow, a dark green, a different texture, and having all those in combination. So the plants that she showed me wouldn't be appropriate for the bed that we had because of the exposure. So that's one of the main things I think you need to consider when you're trying to find a plant. One is the exposure, so looking at sunlight, where's the house, where's that spot facing northwest? Is there existing trees there that maybe facing west, but you're getting a lot of afternoon shade because of that tree? So really kind of analyzing the site or area that you're wanting to address to see what that sun exposure is, then looking at what an actual mature size is for that plant. So exposure, size, and then looking at soil of what's appropriate. Here, unfortunately, a lot of clay everywhere, but is it a dry area? Is it a wet area? Selecting a plant that's going to thrive in that space rather than putting something in a wet area that really likes to be in a more dry, arid soil. So,
and we said soil, not dirt. Dirt was on the bottom of your feet.
That's right.
Yeah. Go back a few episodes and listen to the soil conversation. And so, kind of wrap this up here a little bit. If you're going out and you're going to get a professional landscape design, you want to make sure that you give, whether it's us or anybody else, the proper time to really be thorough and do a good job of delivering something that's well thought out, well planned out. We have the time to go out and do a site assessment. If there's not a plot plan that shows the boundaries of the yard and the outline of the house and driveways, and it's a complicated site, say it's over 1.5 acres and has a lot of woods and a lot of elevations, we would suggest having a civil engineer just do a site survey that marks all the information out so we can have a more accurate plan. There's plenty of companies out there that will provide that service for you. It just helps. That detail helps make sure that we're keeping trees that don't want to be lost, and we're taking the right precautions when a construction project would take place to not to do the best we can to not cause any long-term damage to the trees. But also make sure the design is able to have all the detail to convey the best way possible to give the vision that we have in our heads. So, if there's any questions you have, anything we can help you out with, you can contact us, 636-798-2555. You can visit our website at frisellanursery.com or frisellalandscapegroup.com. You can visit us at Frisella Nursery and at Frisella Landscape Group on Instagram, Facebook. You can find us on all these avenues, contact us or connect with us on all those avenues as well. We would love nothing more than to help you and give you the yard that you always thought of and think of, and maybe even more. We could also love to help you out in the garden center as well. We have so many knowledgeable people here. We have 30 acres of plants. We've got people that have been in this industry their entire careers. And I'm telling you, if you want to know something, if you can't find it here, I think it'll be hard pressed to find it anywhere. So until next week, please let us know if there's anything you would like to hear from us. You can email us at podcast at Frisella Nursery, and we will talk to you then.